A girl that size will never be able to help. With that weight, she can barely take care of herself, let alone save someone. It was with this cruel phrase, spoken by a lady on the sidewalk, that one of the most emotional stories you've ever heard began. On a rainy night, a young obese woman ran toward a car engulfed in flames to save the life of a man trapped in the wreckage. The detail? She had no idea that this stranger was one of the most influential millionaires in the city. Now tell me, what would you do if you were discredited at the exact moment your courage was put to the test? The night seemed to carry a different weight, almost as if the darkness itself wanted to send a message that something extraordinary was about to happen. The rain gave no respite, punishing the asphalt, making the city lights dance over the puddles forming on the sidewalks. Suddenly, a deafening crash cut through the silence. A luxury car at high speed had lost control and crashed into a pole, scattering sparks and dense smoke through the air. The noise made the windows of houses vibrate, and within seconds, some onlookers began to approach, keeping the safe distance that fear imposes. Among them, a figure that drew attention. Sarah, a young obese woman with restless heart and steady gaze. She didn't hesitate because she knew that if someone was trapped inside, time was running against life. And it was at that instant that fate put to the test not only her courage, but also her dignity. As Sarah ran toward the car, she heard a cutting voice coming from behind, loaded with prejudice and disbelief. An elderly woman, without measuring the consequences of her own words, fired. A girl that size will never be able to help. With that weight, she can barely take care of herself, let alone save someone. The phrase fell on Sarah like a rain heavier than the one already drenching her. Perhaps another person would have stopped, perhaps would have felt the shame that sentence carried, but not her, because there are moments when life demands more than accepting labels. It demands courage to prove that we are bigger than the voices trying to diminish us. Have you noticed how, in real life, there's always someone ready to doubt us just when we're about to do something great? Well, yes, it was exactly that kind of doubt that reignited in Sarah a flame of determination, transforming pain into fuel. The curious looks, some pitying and others suspicious, followed Sarah's every step. But she didn't let herself be paralyzed. There was within her a silent conviction. Her size, her strength, or the statistics didn't matter. What mattered was that there was a life at risk. With each step, the smoke seemed denser, the smell of gasoline more intense, and the sparks from the engine exploded like dark fireworks. When she finally approached the dented door, her heart raced. Inside, she could see a motionless man, his head fallen over the steering wheel, prisoner of an uncertain fate. At that instant, Sarah realized she was facing the greatest challenge of her life. Because courage alone wasn't enough to face the flames. It would take strength, instinct, and an immediate decision. And it's precisely at this point that the inevitable question arises. Would she be able to open that deformed door when everyone around believed she couldn't? Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the cold of the rain mixed with the heat of adrenaline rising through her body. The car door was dented, trapped between twisted metal, but the young obese woman didn't hesitate. Each movement required effort. Each pull seemed to challenge limits she didn't even know she had. Around her, people watched in silence, some with disbelief, others with contained hope. The risk of explosion was real, the danger imminent. But something inside her said she couldn't wait. Have you ever seen someone act like this, guided only by instinct, without calculating consequences, simply because another's life depended on it? Well, Sarah was exactly that person, a living example that courage has no size and that heroes don't always wear capes or uniforms. What would she find when pulling that deformed door? A stranger or a destiny that would forever change her own life? As her hand slipped on the hot metal, the world seemed to narrow to just that scene. The smell of smoke, the rain hitting her face, and the metallic sound of the twisted car created an almost cinematic atmosphere, but completely real. Sarah's mind worked fast, calculating angles, force, and every step that could save that life. With each pull, she felt her body protest, but she also discovered reserves of strength she never imagined possessing. And it's curious how, in moments of extreme danger, our mind finds courage where we thought it didn't exist. There, in front of everyone, Sarah became the only point of action amid the chaos. She wasn't there for recognition, status, or reward, but for an impulse that we often only see in real stories of survival and heroism. Her heart beat fast, each beat reminding her that time wouldn't wait. Finally, the door gave way a little, creaking as if protesting against human intervention. Sarah leaned in, quickly checking if she could move the man without causing more injuries. He was unconscious, but breathing, a thread of hope amid the danger. The fear of explosion was still real, the danger latent, but the young obese woman knew that retreating wasn't an option. Each second was a choice between acting and watching tragedy materialize. And it's exactly at this instant that we understand something essential. True courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to face it even when everyone doubts you. Observing the scene, anyone would realize that this moment wasn't just about saving a stranger, but about the strength of a determined soul ready to defy the impossible. Now, the question remains, how far would this courage take her in the next stage of the rescue? The heat of the fire invaded every space near the car, mixing with the smoke spreading rapidly, making the air almost unbreathable. Sarah felt the intensity of the moment hit her skin and mind. There was no time to hesitate. Each breath required effort. Each step was a battle against fatigue and fear. The young obese woman's body trembled, not from weakness, but from tension and pure adrenaline. The man's life depended on her immediate action, and the pressure of failure weighed like an invisible burden, almost suffocating. Many people, faced with situations like this, would freeze or flee, but not Sarah. She knew that choosing not to act would mean losing everything. It's interesting to note how, in critical moments, we realize that courage and responsibility go hand in hand. Each second seemed to dilate, and the decision to move forward was more than physical. It was moral. Sweat mixed with rain dripped down her face and body, but she didn't care. Each drop was a reminder that she was alive, and that she could save another life. Her mind spun, calculating possibilities. How to get that man out of there without hurting him. How not to be swallowed by the terror that seemed to spread like fire. The weight of the decision wasn't just in a physical effort, but in understanding that mistakes weren't allowed. It's curious how life places ordinary people in extraordinary situations, as in real stories of heroism, where the simple act of deciding transforms into an act of greatness. Sarah felt her heart pulse faster, and the thought, do it or lose it, became a silent mantra. The strength she imagined she didn't have suddenly became pure energy, pushing her forward against fear, against pain, against the impossible. Each second counted like hours, and the rain seemed to slow down time just to test her determination. The smoke took its toll, her eyes burned, and breathing became increasingly difficult. But she moved forward. There was an almost painful clarity in that moment. There was no choice, only action. The awareness that this man could die if she hesitated carried an intensity that transformed fear into strength. Sarah knew that true courage is measured in urgency, when another's life depends on us. That instant was an absolute test of limits, proof that physical strength, moral strength, and instinct combine in moments of crisis. And while everyone watched from afar, she became the only protagonist, driven by determination and empathy. Now, the next challenge arose, getting the man out of the burning car, an obstacle that would require even more creativity and courage. With an almost superhuman effort, Sarah managed to open the car door and pull the injured man out. His body was heavy. Each movement required more energy than she imagined possessing. Her heart beat fast. Her breathing seemed to synchronize with the rhythm of the intense rain that continued to fall. Around her, people watched in silence, unable to help or even believe what they were seeing. But Sarah wasn't intimidated. Her focus was entirely on the man who now depended on her strength. Each gesture was calculated, each movement thought out to not aggravate the injuries. In that moment, reality seemed suspended, as if time had decided to give her a unique opportunity for heroism. It was then that she noticed something that would change everything. Beside her, leaning against an abandoned construction site, there was a wheelbarrow, a simple object, but with potential to save lives if used with intelligence and speed. Without losing a second, Sarah dragged the man to the wheelbarrow, using all the strength she had left. Each step was a challenge. Each tilt of her body required total concentration to not lose balance. The abandoned construction site served as temporary refuge, moving away from the immediate danger of the fire and allowing her to plan the next moves. The rain continued to fall, making the ground slippery and increasing the risk of falls, but none of that diminished the young obese woman's determination. She knew time was critical. Each minute could mean the difference between life and death. It's impressive how, in extreme moments, unexpected solutions emerge before us, as if life itself showed us the way. And as she adjusted the man's body in the wheelbarrow, a question persisted. Would she manage to move him away in time before the explosion became inevitable? The man's weight on the wheelbarrow was great, requiring strength that seemed to go beyond human limits. But Sarah didn't think about limits. She only thought about saving that life. Each push required maximum effort. Each step was calculated, balancing speed and care. Rain streamed down her face, mixing with sweat and adrenaline, creating a sensation of intensity that few people experience in real life. This young, obese woman was doing the impossible, proving that courage and creativity walk side by side in extreme situations. As she moved the wheelbarrow a few meters away from the burning car, she realized that each second counted more than ever. And then, deep in her mind, a certainty began to form. The true heroine isn't the one who waits for recognition, but the one who acts when everyone doubts. Now, the great test would be pushing the wheelbarrow to a safe distance before the explosion changed everything. With each push of the wheelbarrow, Sarah felt her body scream with effort. But her mind remained firm, focused only on the life before her. The burning car crackled behind her, releasing sparks that illuminated the rainy night like dark fireworks. The rain left the ground slippery, making each step a dangerous challenge. But the young obese woman's determination overcame any fear. She knew the explosion could happen at any instant, that each second loss would mean the end of that story. Still, she moved with precision, balancing strength and care. Each meter covered was a silent victory, proof that courage and persistence aren't measured in physical size, but will not give up in face of the impossible. The sound of the wheelbarrow's wood and metal creaking under the man's weight seemed to accompany the rhythm of her heart, marking the urgency of that crucial moment. The distance between the wheelbarrow and the burning car decreased the sense of immediate danger, but not the tension hanging in the air. Sarah felt the heat of the fire increasing, mixed with the strong smell of gasoline, and each breath was a conscious effort. She remembered the cruel words of the elderly woman, and somehow those words now served as fuel. "Prove that I can," she thought, as she pushed faster and faster, even with her body exhausted. In emotional stories like this, we realize that true strength isn't just physical, but mental and emotional. And as the distant siren of the ambulance began to approach, the young woman knew she was about to complete something extraordinary. With each step, the line between success and tragedy narrowed, and the feeling of mission accomplished mixed with the pure adrenaline running through her veins. Finally, Sarah managed to place the wheelbarrow at a safe distance from the burning car. At the same instant, an explosion lit up the night, scattering sparks and leaving a heavy silence in the air right after. Her heart still beat fast, and the feeling of imminent danger disappeared amid the silent gratitude of everyone watching the scene. This young obese woman, discredited by many, had saved a life heroically, showing that courage and determination overcome any judgment or prejudice. But as the ambulance siren cut through the silence, a question began to form. Who would this man be who had just had his life saved? Sarah could barely imagine that this encounter would change not only his life, but hers as well, opening doors to something completely unexpected. At the hospital, the atmosphere was a mixture of tension and relief. Nurses ran from one side to the other. Patients and companions observed everything with wide eyes. Sarah, soaked and exhausted, still trembled from adrenaline, but curious feeling began to emerge. Expectation. Soon, the news spread to the corridors like a whisper that transforms into murmur. The man she had saved was Michael Thornton, one of the richest and most influential businessmen in the city. For Sarah, it was an almost irreversible shock. She had risked her life for a stranger, and now discovered that this stranger wasn't just important, but a figure of power and prestige that any ordinary person knew, even if only by name. The mixture of surprise and disbelief almost paralyzed her, but also left her fascinated. After all, What would motivate someone so distant from her reality to value her courage so intensely? Sarah's heart still beat fast, and her mind tried to process everything. Michael, even injured, was a striking presence. His gaze conveyed gratitude, respect, and something more difficult to define in that moment. She never imagined that her act of courage could resonate so deeply. Around her, nurses whispered, journalists began to gather, and the entire city seemed to wait to meet the young woman who dared to face the impossible. It's impressive how, in real stories of heroism, life rewards those who act without expecting anything in return. Each detail of the rescue now became even more significant, and Sarah realized that her life was about to change in a way she could never anticipate. And at that instant, an irresistible curiosity arose. What did Michael feel for this girl who saved his life? Without wasting time, Michael asked to see her personally. It wasn't just gratitude that moved that invitation, but something deeper, a need to be in front of someone who had enough courage to challenge him and save him. Sarah, still surprised and a little apprehensive, accepted. The idea of personally meeting a millionaire she had only heard about was frightening, but at the same time, intriguing. Each step toward him seemed to carry a tension that only unexpected encounters managed to generate. The young, obese woman realized, without fully understanding yet, that this encounter would be the turning point of her life. After all, few moments in life offer the chance to transform courage into real human connection, where respect, admiration, and perhaps something deeper begin to reveal themselves. What would come next, in the meeting between Savior and Millionaire, promised to change everything. When Michael appeared at Sarah's simple home, the atmosphere seemed charged with emotion and expectation. He entered carefully, almost like someone who respects every detail of a world that wasn't his. His eyes, attentive and sincere, traveled through every corner, but always returned to her, analyzing the courage that transformed that night into something extraordinary. Sarah felt a mixture of nervousness and curiosity, as if each gesture was told a story she couldn't fully comprehend yet. Michael didn't hide his emotion. There was admiration and respect mixed in every word, in every look. She realized that he didn't see just a physical rescue, but also the strength, determination, and empathy that moved her. In emotional stories, there are encounters like this that seem simple, but carry the weight of twists capable of transforming lives. And as they talked, Sarah began to realize that this injured man not only valued her courage, he was genuinely impressed with who she was. The silence between them had its own rhythm, as if each breath marked the beginning of something new. Michael thanked her for his life, but his eyes betrayed something deeper, fascination and admiration. Sarah, who had so often been underestimated for her body or others' words, felt for the first time seen completely. He didn't see just a young obese woman. He saw a fearless soul capable of facing the impossible. The conversation flowed naturally, and each detail of the accident night was recounted with intensity and emotion. The initial tension gave way to a silent connection, which didn't need word to be felt. It was a kind of encounter that, even amid real and common stories, stands out because it transforms respect into curiosity, admiration into something that promises to go beyond. Sarah realized that his gratitude went much deeper than she could imagine. While Michael remained there, the young woman felt the weight of expectations disappear, replaced by something unexpected, a connection that went beyond the physical rescue. He shared details of his life cautiously, showing vulnerability and humanity, something few had access to. Each word has reinforced how much her courage had impressed someone of such high status. Sarah, at the same time, felt a mixture of surprise, enchantment, and a hint of disbelief. How could such a powerful man be interested in her essence, and not just in what she had done? That silent encounter became the prelude to something greater, a bridge between different worlds, where courage, empathy, and authenticity began to shape an unexpected bond. And as the conversation continued, Sarah felt that the next step would be decisive. Michael would make a proposal that could change everything between them. Michael, still impressed with Sarah's courage, approached with a look that mixed determination and curiosity. He made an unexpected proposal. He wanted her to become his assistant in a special project, something that went far beyond a common job. For him, her courage was worth more than diploma, status, or any previous experience. Sarah, surprised, felt a mixture of pride and doubt. After all, how could someone so powerful really be interested in her? But there was something in his eyes that left no room for lies. Sincerity, respect, and genuine recognition for what she had done. At that instant, she realized that unexpected opportunities arise for those who dare to act, even when everyone doubts. Life sometimes rewards in surprising ways those who decide to follow instinct and face the impossible. And, as she pondered, the young obese woman began to understand that this invitation could be much more than work. It could be a bridge to something new and transformative. The initial coexistence between the two was full of discoveries and learning. Sarah quickly realized that Michael didn't see her just as someone who saved his life, but as a person capable of thinking, acting, and transforming situations. The routine in the special project brought challenges, but also moments of complicity and mutual trust. Each decision made side by side reinforced the respect they felt for each other. Sarah, who had so often faced prejudice, now tasted being valued for what she truly was. It's curious how, in real and emotional stories, opportunities arise in the most unexpected moments, transforming courage into personal and professional growth. And as daily life brought the two closer, a question began to take shape. To what extent could this closeness transform into something beyond respect and admiration? Michael began to reveal, little by little, details of his thoughts and concerns and dreams for the project. Sarah, listening attentively, realized that he trusted her in a way that no one else dared. With each conversation, each exchange of ideas, the bond between the two strengthened, and the subtle but intense attraction began to emerge. For her, it was impressive to see how someone so influential managed to be human, vulnerable, and genuine, and still admire the courage of a young obese woman who, by chance, crossed his path on a rainy night. And so, between project challenges and unexpected moments of connection, the relationship between them began to transform. Respect was consolidated, trust grew, and a spark of something greater, deeper, began to shine. And that spark would be the harbinger of an awakening that neither Sarah nor Michael could imagine. Over time, the routine between Sarah and Michael became more intense and meaningful. He began to reveal secrets of his life, pains from the past, and vulnerabilities that few knew. Sarah, in turn, became not only his assistant, but a support, confidant, and true friend. Each conversation, each challenge faced together, created a solid bridge of trust and understanding. She realized that courage and empathy were powerful tools of connection, capable of transforming respect into admiration and admiration into something deeper. Michael, who until then dealt with everything through numbers and business, began to discover emotions he didn't know how to name. The young obese woman, with her generous heart and unwavering determination, awakened in him feelings that went far beyond gratitude. And as they walked side by side, he realized something essential. What he felt for Sarah was more than respect or fascination. It was silent, growing, and inevitable love. Sarah, observing the subtle changes in Michael, began to feel something she had never imagined. A mixture of tenderness, admiration, and affection. Each gesture of his, each careful word, awakened a feeling of security and enchantment. She realized that the bond that emerged from a rainy night, from an act of courage, had evolved into something much greater. Respect had transformed into emotional intimacy, and intimacy into genuine feelings, capable of touching the heart. Michael, who previously protected himself behind status and power, now showed himself vulnerable before her, revealing that true strength isn't in money or social position, but in the ability to trust and love. And Sarah, realizing the depth of this awakening, began to question herself. Would she be ready to open her heart the same way he opened his? The days and nights shared slowly transformed their relationship into something inevitable and natural. Michael discovered in the young obese woman someone who completed him, someone who understood his essence without judgments. Sarah, in turn, found in him not just gratitude, but a presence that inspired and strengthened her. Each smile, each touch, each look carried a silent promise of true connection. The trust built through the rescue transformed into affection, and affection into something deeper that neither of them dared to name yet. And, in that process, both realized that love arose not only from grand acts, but also from small gestures, from mutual respect, and from the courage to show vulnerability. What began as gratitude, little by little, became genuine desire, an inevitable question began to arise. Would Sarah be ready to reciprocate this growing feeling? One day, in front of everyone who knew them and witnesses who admired their story, Michael decided to no longer contain what he felt. With courage that rivaled that of the young obese woman on that rainy night, he declared his feelings publicly. It wasn't just gratitude. It wasn't just respect. It was love, intense and true. Sarah, hearing those words, felt a whirlwind of emotions. Surprise, joy, relief, and the feeling that all doubts and prejudices finally dissipated. The city, which so many times observed the two from afar, now witnessed a story that seemed taken from a book, but was palpably real. It's curious to note how acts of bravery can transform into love, how the courage of an instant can shape an entire life. Sarah, emotional, realized that all the prejudiced words she heard on that rainy night no longer had power over her. Her courage, determination, and empathy had taken her far beyond any expectation. She not only saved a life, but conquered respect, admiration, and, above all, the heart of someone who seemed unattainable. Michael, with his elegant and human way, proved that he values what truly matters: character, courage, and authenticity. The young obese woman that so many discredited became a living example that appearances and judgments don't define who we are or what we're capable of. And so, their love flourished, showing that great feelings are born from respect, courage, and true connection between souls. The ending of this story isn't just about an unlikely romance, but about transformation, overcoming, and the reward of acting with courage and empathy. Sarah and Michael became living proof that life can surprise when we decide to face the impossible. Each step taken on that rainy night, each choice of courage, and each instant of determination culminated not only in salvation, but in true love. And as the rain ceased and the sun began to appear, the two became symbols of hope. The courage of a young obese woman and the gratitude of a millionaire intertwined in a story that everyone would remember. What seemed unlikely now became inspiration for all who witness or hear this narrative. And so, their story will continue, reminding us that courage and true love are worth more than any appearance or fortune. What we can learn from Sarah and Michael's story goes far beyond heroism or romance. It's about courage, empathy, and the strength to believe in yourself, even when everyone doubts you. How many times have you stopped acting for fear of others' judgment or thinking you didn't have the capacity? Real stories like this remind us that each decision matters, that a simple act of bravery can transform lives. Yours and someone's you'd never imagine. So I ask you, are you ready to act with courage, face challenges, and prove to yourself that you can go beyond the limits imposed by others? Don't wait for recognition or reward. Start with small actions that reflect who you truly are. And if this story inspired you, if it connected with you, or awakened something within your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss more content that will touch your life, challenge your mind, and inspire real changes.